Hi, everyone. Welcome to the weekly live stream on Thursday. We have a special episode today with a special guest, Jonas Giaever from Norway. Jonas, you are a journalist. You have your own company, a football quiz company as well, which it's very something that you're working on very much lately as well. You also participate in La Liga podcast. So you have a good life, actually, because you make money out of football. So a lot of us wish we could do the same, basically.
Yeah, funny that you mentioned it. I have a tendency not to think that much about it, but yeah, I do. The way I get by in life is actually to talk, read, watch, and do any sort of thing that's football related. So, yeah, when you mention it that way, I'm quite fortunate, to be honest with you.
Very good, very good. We will, of course, talk about Bodo. We invited you to talk about Bodo Glimt. You were recommended also by Adrian from Rabona TV. So we're looking forward to that. I also want to ask the viewers if they have any questions about the team or the coach, Knutsen, because there will be some questions about that as well. Please let us know in the comments. We will ask this, of course, to Jonas as well. Luke, always a pleasure. Pierre, always a pleasure. The Knutsen fans have joined as well. So this is going to be a very interesting episode. Jonas, let me start with asking a question from my side first. Luke, Pierre, you guys can also ask questions after, no problem, anytime you want. Let me start by saying, should we be worried playing Bodo at this stage?
Yes and no. Yes, because they are by far the best team from Norway in this moment in time. They've shown it over the course of a couple of years. They've had some interesting things happening in the transfer market, which obviously has a different time frame than what it does in the rest of Europe, because obviously Norway we play from the spring until the winter, whereas the traditional calendar is a little bit different. And no, because of that calendar, we're not in season. So Ajax are in season. Ajax are used to playing football matches. Bodo Glimt will not be used to that. So they need to find their groove really quickly. Today, Thursday, the 8th of February, they played a friendly, for example, and they're still in Portugal. I don't remember which country it is that they're in doing their preseason. So that kind of tells you that, yes, they're a good side. They defeated Malmö 4-0 today, which, I mean, Malmö is a fantastic team. But they're out of season, so it all depends on what kind of side you are to face. Obviously, they've also lost a couple of players, but I'm guessing we're going to get into that.
Yeah. Let me ask you another question, follow-up question quickly, and then I'll promise I will let Pierre and Luke ask questions as well. Is it because we all picked up the success, from Bodo as well, like you said, nationally, and we always tend to look at the coach? Is the coach a difference maker here, or is it more than that? Is it too simplistic to think Knutsen is the one that's making everything happen?
I'm speaking to Ajax fans. That it's kind of a loaded question, isn't it? Because I know a lot of Ajax fans are very curious about Kjetil Knutsen and whether or not what he can bring to a club, because I've seen him been linked to a certain club on a couple of occasions. No, I think he has a lot to do with it. He is a difference maker in that he creates a culture. He is very administrative, I should say. He's one of those managers that it's either his way or the highway for the most part. Players have to adhere to his culture, have to adhere to his standards. But I still think that culture has it's become a foundation. He's gone to a very traditional club in Bodo Glimt, where he has been allowed to be his own person within those traditions. But I think that one of the strengths of Kjetil Knutsen is his openness. It's been spoken about a lot here in Norway, how sort of mental health has been the center of a lot of things that has been positive for Bodo Glimt. And that the players, they have their own groups in which they discuss, normal life problems, things that happen in their lives, and they try to help each other. And they have a mental coach that was a flight pilot for many years, who kind of helps them to get by certain difficulties in their lives. And I think that the culture that they've created has allowed every single player to be themselves. And you see that on the pitch. They are, of course, a nucleus, but there are individuals within that nucleus. So that is the strength. But I think that the person that's allowed that to happen is obviously Kjetil Knutsen, who is obviously the person that is allowed to make those decisions.
Yeah. All right. As promised, Luke, Pierre, take it away.
Listen, Jonas, nice to meet you. I hope I said your name right. Jonas, correct?
Jonas, whichever floats your boat.
England, different pronunciation than Juan in the Netherlands, etc. Obviously, the Eredivisie, Ajax, and the Netherlands are looked at as quite a country and a league that develops young talent, and I know Norway is seen the same. Haaland, etc., like that. Okay. Teams like Valerenga, who just got relegated, I believe, last season, but they're one of the big teams like to develop players also, as well as Bodo, etc. Can you find a lot of similarities with the Eredivisie and the Netherlands in terms of the kind of talent they develop and having to sell them on, and then having to then bring through more youth to then be able to sustain a model that allows them to fund their academy more and more and more? Is it youth-based league or country where a lot of focus on development, like the Netherlands? Are there similarities you can pull up, or are they different leagues in different countries?
Yeah, I think that it's more traditional in the Netherlands. I think that the Eredivisie has shown through decades that that's the way to run football. It is kind of new in Norway because we're having a huge talent boom in this country now. I mean, I've spoken to people obviously in the Netherlands. I've spoken to people in Spain, in England, in the United States, in Portugal, in Canada about this fantastic footballing culture that happens in Norway. This is new to us as well. We haven't been this good ever in developing talent. Yes, we had a golden generation in the 90s. They went to the World Cup in 94. They went to the World Cup in 98. They went to the Euro 2000, which was obviously hosted in the Netherlands and Belgium. But what is happening now is that we're seeing an even more golden generation about to take center stage. And of course, Haaland, Ødegaard, and Arsenal are the two focal points of that. But to speak about Norway as sort of this beacon of tradition in terms of developing youth is completely alien to us. But I still think that our league and our way of developing players has been modernized and has been revolutionized over the past decade. We emphasize to a grander or to a more grandiose level the necessity to develop youth talent. So I think that we're getting to a point. We mentioned Vålerenga, who are a fantastic side. They are the big side in the capital. They've been fantastic at developing young players and then moving them on for a profit. We see other clubs do the same. Molde do the same. Stabæk do the same. There are a lot of teams that do the sort of same thing and understand the necessity for it. I think that what separates perhaps those sides and the likes of Bodo Glimt, for example, is that Bodo Glimt are better at nurturing that economic profit that they're getting. They're better at understanding that they can grow their team, they can grow their facilities, they can grow sort of their infrastructure at a better level, and then obviously find those gems that perhaps hasn't been as valued within our systems and within our clubs. A great example of this is Erik Botheim, who was, for example, picked up from Rosenborg for nothing. He was let go and he was sold to Krasnodar about a year later for, I think it was around 10 million euros. So they're good at doing that whilst also nurturing talented players that we've seen leave Bodo Glimt, and a lot of them return to Bodo Glimt, which is probably something that we will talk about later on as well.
I just have one more question. So obviously, I'm a big advocate of Knutsen. I always talk about him all the time. I think he's the one for Ajax. And you talk about culture within the club, Bodo that he created. For the Ajax viewers, the Ajax fans that are watching, would it be a seamless transition into Ajax, considering the culture that we have at the club and the way that we like to bring youth in? Would you think it would be a seamless transition should he were to get the job? Do you think that, given the keys as such and the room to be able to create a certain culture or certain atmosphere, do you think he could be a success?
Yeah, of course. But we need to remember that Bodo Glimt is his first real big job in Norway. I mean, he's been in the lower leagues, and he was actually, I believe he was hired when Bodo got relegated. So he's been part of this growing culture and this growing belief within that city. So he's very ingrained into everything that has happened there. He won't be as ingrained in everything that goes on at Ajax, which is going to be a big difference. You got to remember, he was linked with Rosenborg, which is the biggest club in Norway, by far the biggest club, played all those years in the Champions League, faced Ajax on numerous occasions in the Champions League. And he refused that job. And one of those reasons why he probably refused that job is because he wouldn't have had the same sort of power and control which he has had at Bodo Glimt. And my big question would be, is he going to get that sort of control at a club like at Ajax? Because we saw he was linked with Ajax. We've seen him been linked with different clubs in the Premier League as well. And my first, I suppose, doubt about him taking those jobs is the fact that is he going to be given the same type of control? And when the going gets rough, which it will at every single club, will he be given the same backing which he has been given at Bodo Glimt? Will he be given the same sort of resources? Will he be able to be given sort of the same carte blanche that he perhaps has been given at Bodo Glimt? I don't think so. But is he someone that could sort of roll with the tide and sort of get acclimatized to that situation? Perhaps, but at the same time, we have to remember he's not the youngest manager anymore, and he needs to kind of hit the ground running really quickly. But I'd love to see him at Ajax. I'd love to see it because I think it'd be a great way not only for us to sort of brand our players as forward-thinking and revolutionizing, but if he is to become a manager that does really, really well at a club like Ajax, he'd be one of those managers to do that. And there are very few of them. There's perhaps him and Ronny Deila, who is currently managing in Belgium, and obviously Ole Gunnar Solskjær, who was at Manchester United, who didn't do too well. But those are sort of the only ones that I can think of at the top of my head that has gone and done that to great success.
Bear, just quickly, a follow-up question on what Jonas said. You said just now that in terms of control, carte blanche, this is very important for him to succeed, because that's what you're seeing as well at Bodo. When you talk about that, what comes to mind? Are we talking also that he has a say in the transfer? He decides on the transfer windows as well, like who comes in, who leaves, these kind of things? Or is it, I have to look at it differently?
No, certainly. He has something to say on that matter as well. What he wants, what he needs, which players he likes, which players he doesn't like. I've spoken to players who's played at Bodo Glimt and plays there who've told me that he's very involved with everything that goes on in that club, and understandably so. It's not a huge club. You have to remember they're a relatively small club, despite the fact that they're having great success. A lot of people are talking about them as this big club in Norway, but no, I'd say that they're smaller than their arch rivals, which is Tromsø. But they're doing a lot better than them. As a matter of fact, they actually hired the head coach of Tromsø as their assistant. So, which has been one of those extreme things that have happened this winter, where as you can imagine, for example, imagine if Ajax were to go out and hire the PSV manager as their assistant. It's that is what has happened. That's what's happened in Norway. So it's a crazy situation. And they signed the best defender of that team as well. So again, imagine Ajax going out and signing the best PSV defender. They grab both the manager and the defender from the arch rivals. And of course, one of the people that is of influence to do that is Kjetil Knutsen, because of the great power that he has.
Interesting. Pierre, go ahead. Sorry, man.
Yeah, it makes total sense to me. I also kind of agree with you. I don't think there would be anything anywhere near a carte blanche if he would join Ajax. I do, however, also think that won't happen at any team that at least is a big step up. Maybe Manchester United, since they've completely lost their mind and made Ten Hag decide everything, but that shouldn't happen, in my opinion. I would actually like to take a step back because Luke and I have watched a couple games of Bodo, of course, but many people in chat don't. Maybe you could paint a picture on their play style or how they like to play.
Certainly. 4-3-3, high press. He is a disciple of what we call the Eggen school in Norway. And Eggen is obviously after Nils Arne Eggen, who was the big manager in Norwegian football in the 90s with the aforementioned Rosenborg side. They played 4-3-3. They had the two number 8s rush into the box with the two fullbacks coming around, the two wingers going inside, and then just completely crowding the areas. Really high pressing, really energy-based, allowing for especially their wingers to sort of be more attackers than wingers. The number 9 is able to play with his back against goal, or against the opposing goal, I should say. And it's all really, it's like clockwork to watch them at times. It's really impressive, and how they switch from side to side as well. They're sensational to watch when they're on song. And I've seen them play out some of the best teams in Norway and make them look absolutely foolish at times. It's ridiculous to watch. And the thing was, we saw this in Norway, and then we saw it happen to Roma and Mourinho as well. And that's when we sort of thought that, whoa, okay. So what they're doing is not just big for us, it's actually big out in Europe as well. Extreme high pressing, a lot of energy, but they're also able to sort of pace down play at times, especially when they're in leads. They don't take unnecessary risks, but they're always looking for that second goal, or the third goal, or the fourth goal, or the fifth goal. He's really influenced and inspired by Liverpool. By Jurgen Klopp especially. He's spoken about that at length. I've spoken to him about that as well, about him being influenced by Jurgen Klopp and liking how Klopp plays, and Liverpool being his favorite team. So he obviously watches them and is a big fan of them. So I think he's taken a lot from those schools, from the Jurgen Klopp way of thinking, but also that Nils Arne Eggen way of thinking, which is sort of the blueprint to the best football that's ever been played in club football here in Norway. So he's a good mixture of both, and that's why we're now sort of discussing, and every sort of pundit and expert is talking, is this the best team we've ever seen in Norwegian club football? Has he sort of outdone his master, or does he still have a way to go? And I think that the next step is obviously to take Bodo to the Champions League.
Perfect. I have a bit of a follow-up question. They've lost in the cup game against Molde, which was quite surprising to me, which means they have their weaknesses, and I wanted to learn a little bit more about that. How do you see that? What do they struggle with?
Yeah, so they lost 2 cup finals against Molde in 2 years. We kind of had like a different way of thinking about our cup finals because of COVID and everything. I don't remember if it's 2-2 or 2-3, but no, I'd say that their lack of, sometimes they have a little bit of a tactical naivety about them. They like to throw a lot of players ahead, which sometimes leaves them a little bit exposed at the back. They've had defenders who haven't been the quickest in Brede Mo and Marius Lode. Now they signed Jostein Gundersen, who is the one that I mentioned that they signed from their arch rivals, who will probably come in and fix a lot of those issues for them. I also think that once they're sort of forced into physical battles, they struggle. Set plays, for example, they've shown at times that they struggle. We saw that against Galatasaray at times, where I thought that they looked really, really weak, especially from the set pieces. I just think that they're a side that has certain issues about them that is really easy to expose once you're able to get them really riled up. I think I mixed Galatasaray in there. That's not the team I was thinking of. That was Molde faced Galatasaray. Yeah, I don't remember who they faced where they really struggled on set pieces. I remember that Molde did as well, but I believe that Bodo Glimt had a side out there in Europe which really tested them from set pieces as well. I think Mourinho was able to do that with his Roma side, but it's becoming a few years ago now. But from set pieces, they've shown that they've had a deficiency on numerous occasions. But I think that they're able to sort of fix that up a little bit once they're getting, especially Jostein Gundersen in, who is a fantastic defender. So I don't know if Ajax is the side that I think of first to be pressing them from set pieces and in terms of physical battles. But we've seen it once they've had to really defend set pieces, and once the game has been sort of chop and change, which has happened a lot, they struggle to get into rhythm. And once you get them out of the rhythm, they struggle to sort of create anything as well. So that's happened on numerous occasions as well.
Does Bodo feel comfortable, because we're also a possession-based team, Ajax, usually? Do they feel comfortable not having the ball all the time?
That's a good question.
Thank you.
It is a very good question. I think that they don't like chasing the ball too much. But it depends on if they face sides that are good at playing themselves out from the back and playing through that first line of pressure. If they get out of that first line of pressure and expose the areas that Bodo Glimt will leave, I think that Ajax could really do some damage against Bodo Glimt. But the thing is that Bodo Glimt are not going to be afraid of that. So they're going to keep pressing. They're going to keep doing it. They're going to believe in their own systems. And I think that that's sort of the way that they really can hurt a lot of sides, because that belief. You got to remember, they'll travel there and they'll think, hey, we got nothing to lose. No one thought we'd be here anyway. And their fans that travel all over the place. They're easy to spot. They're all in yellow. They all have this big toothbrush, because the toothbrush for some reason is the symbol of their side. Don't ask me why. I have no idea, to be quite honest with you. But they'll travel with that. They'll make themselves loud. Really passionate fans. So no, they'll go there with a lot of energy. They'll go there thinking that they can do some real damage. But I think that set pieces, taking them out of their rhythm, and perhaps also being physical against them, is probably the way to get them out of their systems, I suppose I should say. The team that comes to mind that they played against is actually Rosenborg and Kjetil Rekdal, who currently is managing in Cyprus. He played a 3-5-2, which I don't expect Ajax to do, but he really got them out of their rhythm, really riled them up. And I don't think he did lose to them once, but I think that once he got the hang of how to get them out of their rhythm, they didn't lose to them. I think they drew on both occasions, and the Rosenborg at that time really didn't have a good squad. They still don't, but it was particularly bad at that time. So I think that is the way to get them sort of frustrated.
All right, perfect. Guys, can I just ask some questions from the viewers, because there are some questions that just popped in. Let me go with Christian. Question for Jonas. How have the Bodo fans looked at the recent results of Ajax, with us getting kicked out of the Dutch Cup by an amateur team and getting a player like Henderson in our squad? I mean,
Don't think we will look.
But yeah.
We haven't really looked that much at Ajax's results, because I think Ajax has a tremendous amount of respect in Norway. That has to be said. I mean, Ajax is when you look at the biggest and the most traditional sides in Europe and in the world, Ajax is huge. I remember when Sivert Mannsverk signed for Ajax, a lot of fans in Norway were like, whoa, Ajax, whoa, that's a big club to go to.
There's a question about that as well. What do you think of Mannsverk being at Ajax? But basically, yeah.
I have to say, I have on Twitter and everywhere else, I've been screaming about Sivert Mannsverk for the better part of 3 or 4 years. He is sensational. He is ridiculously good. And in both ways, both offensively and offensively. But I just don't think he's gone into a good situation at Ajax, unfortunately. I think he is a player that needs to have stability around him. He's still a young player. He needs to be not guaranteed to play, but at least that he has a spot in the squad. He comes from a very small place in Norway. And obviously, he was the captain of his local club side, who play in the second division, Sogndal in Norway. I believe he was captain at 16 or 17, 18, something along those lines. He was the captain. He scored the cup-winning final goal against Bodo Glimt a couple of years ago for Molde at the age of 19, I believe he was. I mean, the mentality of this kid is absolutely insane. But he's been very unfortunate with injuries, and I think he's been very unfortunate with the situation and everything that has happened at Ajax. So I'm hoping that the Ajax fans, for their sake, I hope they're patient. And I hope that getting someone like Henderson in, because I know he was mentioned, though I don't think Jordan Henderson necessarily is on his best days, I think he could be someone to definitely influence and help guide players like Mannsverk into becoming even better players. So if he doesn't succeed at Ajax, he will 100% succeed somewhere else. So be patient with him.
All right, we'll do that. Final question that I see right now, and there's a comment also about Sogndal, just quickly. I heard from people that Knutsen doesn't have a plan B, but from my perspective, he does. How do you look at that, Jonas?
Well, I'd be very curious to know what that plan B is, because I kind of agree with him sort of having a plan A, which is plan A, and plan B being try plan A one more time. Yeah. The thing about it is that his system and his belief has kind of been proven to work whenever he has had to make it work. I think that sometimes he's tried to play with a false nine, which they might try to do against Ajax as well, because I believe they had an injury to the striker just now. And the new striker that they bought, he's been out with an injury for 6-7 months. And that means that they only have one more striker in their team who did play in Europe last season and did play for him last year as well, which is Kapskarmul, but he really isn't that seasoned. He isn't someone that's played that much at the highest level. I know that they have great belief in him, but at the same time, they've had great belief in him because they've had the likes of Amal Pellegrino playing out on the left. He has left the side now. He's gone to the MLS, which I think is something that Ajax fans should, sigh of relief. Yeah, it's a big sigh of relief because he was the talisman for that team and he could win games by himself. And obviously, they've now re-signed Jens Petter Hauge, who's back after his stint at AC Milan and Eintracht Frankfurt. They re-signed Håkon Evjen, who's been in Denmark. So they have a few of their same kind of players that got them to where they are now, but they need to be embedded into the system again. So there are a lot of questions about how they'll fare. But at the same time, as I alluded to earlier, they won 4-0 in their friendly today against Malmö. So chances are that they're already meshing and blending, which is the great credit to Kjetil Knutsen's Plan A, because everyone knows Plan A, because everyone has been part of Plan A. So that is that's the great success of that team thus far.
If you look at the window, right, the January window, this team hasn't been picked apart that much. So the system can still be played by how they're used to. Am I correct about this, or has it been picked apart a lot in your view?
No, I think you're very right about that. I think that their great success was keeping Albert Grönbeck, who is still at that side, at number 8, who's again, I saw he was linked with an MLS side, and I was like, that. I mean, he has to go to a bigger club than that. I wouldn't be shocked if a club like Ajax would look at him, for example, as someone who can come into those late runs into the box, who's able to create something from a deeper midfield position. Very good in the 4-3-3. I also think he could be really good in the 4-2-3-1 as the number 10, or maybe as one of the number 8s. But he's remained at the club, signed a new deal, so Ajax will have to look out for him. I think that was a big win for them. But with the exception of Pellegrino, I think that's sort of their only big loss.
How about Mumbanya?
You could say Mumbanya as well, considering the fact that they struggle with not having strikers. But at the same time, they kind of prepared for that with signing Kasper Høeg from Stabæk. He's the striker who's been out for 6-7 months with an injury. Mumbanya, I mean, he's a physical specimen, isn't he? I mean, he's able to really cause havoc. And I'll be looking forward to what he does in Marseille. But at the same time, although he was really, really good, I still see him as one of those that could be replaced, and one that within the system could be replaced. So, and that's kind of goes for Pellegrino as well, but not in the same way, because you can give the ball to Pellegrino and ask him to do magic, and he'll do magic. And it's one of those great mysteries in Norway why he hasn't been picked for the national team. And that's a national team that has Ødegaard, that has Haaland, that has all these other players. It's been a national outcry to put him in the national team. So that he's left Bodo Glimt, I think, is a big victory for Ajax.
Okay, awesome. I have a question again from Christian. What kind of result, or what's your prediction basically of the two legs between Ajax and Bodo? What are you expecting? Do you think we're favorites? Do you think it's 50-50? How do you look at that? I know it's hard to say that, and you have a lot of Norwegian friends, so you have to be careful, but you can be honest to us. It's fine.
Had it been in season, I would have actually gone for Bodo Glimt.
Wow.
But that is also based upon the current situation at Ajax, and that there's so much commotion there, and that there's so much ruckus, and it just seems like 1 week the club is falling apart, the next week they're going to win the world again, and then they're falling apart, and then it's just, I don't recognize the Ajax that I grew up on, and the Ajax that sort of. No, but I think that, look, a couple of years ago we were all speaking about Ajax the way we're speaking about Bodo Glimt now. We were speaking about Van der Sar, we were speaking about Overmars. Now we're speaking about it for different reasons. Ten Hag. We're speaking about the great side that they had, with all those fantastic players that we see scattered around Europe now. And now it's just what has happened to Ajax? There's nothing. This club that was sort of I suppose, a factory of talent and a factory of great football. All of a sudden, the factory burned down and everyone left, seemingly. So, but that's the picture that's being painted about Ajax right now to the rest of Europe and to the rest of the world. But I think that Ajax as an institution are obviously always going to come back at some point. But will they be able to overcome what is perhaps not as well-known factory, which is based in Norway at the moment, which is well-run, which has workers there who know everything about the factory, which has created some fantastic stuff over the past couple of years? I'm not too certain. I'd say in season, I'd go with Bodo Glimt, considering that Ajax are in season. And I think, the pressure is more on Ajax than on Bodo Glimt. I'd say Ajax are tiny, tiny favorites, but it's nothing more than 55, 45, 60, 40 in favor of Ajax. And I do think that if Bodo Glimt get a great result, in the Johan Cruyff Arena, I think that they'll take that regardless if they go through or not, because to them it's all about creating those memories and going to those different stadiums and having the photos with the players and the fans, and it's a fairy tale. It's an absolute fairy tale, which was never supposed to happen, but here we are.
Yeah, absolutely. Quickly, not questions, but just reactions from our viewers. Sepp is saying, Sonda, I've been there in the summer of 2015. Beautiful place.
Yes, it is. I've been there as well. Beautiful, beautiful. I was there for a wedding in the summer. Beautiful.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Christer is saying, I think he's Norwegian. He's saying, Ajax and Ajax from Norway and us in Bodo. One of the best and biggest team in Europe for 50 years. Also seen as a great talent factory. Just like what you said, Jonas.
Absolutely.
And I also have BRN basically saying a little bit like confirming what you're saying as well. I think Bodo will come too early for us, if I'm honest. So yeah, that might be a good thing for us. Luke, Pierre, do you guys have any follow-up questions? Any final questions maybe for Jonas?
Surely, I have a couple.
Yeah, go ahead.
About the players, of course, you somewhat recently also signed Gulliksen. I would love to hear a little bit more about him. I think he's one of the players that could definitely develop into one of their best players. And I think even now he could still be a threat for Ajax in the upcoming games.
Certainly. Gulliksen was signed as the replacement for Hugo Vetlesen, who went to Club Brugge. Fantastic young talent. He had some issues with the law, unfortunately, in terms of driving his car a little too fast. So he's a character. He's a fun kind of character, both on the pitch and off the pitch, in terms of his interviews and sort of how he carries himself. I think that his first touch and the way he moves into space is tremendous to watch at times. His spatial awareness is ridiculously good, and he fits seamlessly rather into this side. And has taken up the space left by Hugo Vetlesen to great success. I think that he's one of those players that sort of drift too much in and out of matches at times. That is perhaps his biggest fallacy at this moment in time, but that was also the same issue that Vetlesen had for the longest time. So I think giving him another season, perhaps giving him even more of a greater role within this side, is going to do him a world of good and probably do Bodo Glimt a world of good. And then they end up selling him for 8 to 10 million euros, like they do every sort of player that they have. We keep saying that they bring in all these broken toilets and they sell them on as like national treasures. And I'm not going to say that he was a toilet of a player, because he was actually one of the most talented that we had in Norway. But at the same time, he is really showing that the talent that he has alongside those great players that he has at Bodo Glimt, which I think is very Ajax-esque of them to do.
That makes sense. About the game, of course, between Ajax and Bodo Glimt, I think it has some similarities to the game that we recently played against PSV. PSV also likes to play very high press. When their first plan doesn't work, however, they start throwing in crosses, which actually worked reasonably well. The game ended 1-1. I think for us, mostly, Henderson made a big impact. He started the game and it looked like we had a lot more structure, mostly defensively, whereas there hasn't been any structure for months, I think. And I think that could be what gets Ajax the win over Bodo Glimt. But if they fall back on the old train, basically, I think we'll take a massive amount of goals against us, at least 3.
Yeah.
I wonder how you think about that or feel about that.
No, I think that you'll probably see a lot of the same with Bodo. Not necessarily a lot of crosses, but they'll switch and change, especially in the wide areas, because they have different types of players in those wide areas. For example, Nino Sugel, who was a player that really came on at the latter stages of last season. He's more of an individualistic player who was able to create sort of something out of nothing, who not as efficient as Amal Pellegrino, but someone who was able to cause a lot of havoc, a lot more direct than a lot of the players that they have. I'm very eager to see how Håkon Evjen and Jens Petter Hauge are reintroduced into Bodo Glimt and how they play. But I think that more so than changing their system in terms of, start being more direct, I don't think they'll do that, but I think they'll introduce players that'll give them different nuances within their systems. So I think that they'll remain in a 4-3-3 almost regardless of what happens. Perhaps they'll switch it into a 4-1-2-1-2, something along those lines that is sort of similar to 4-3-3 regardless. But I don't think that you'll see a low block where they'll sit deep and just wait on the crosses or wait on Ajax. They'll attack and they'll go for them. They might have a mid block where they don't go as high out of respect for what Ajax are, especially when they're playing away from home. But I'd be surprised if you see a Bodo Glimt side that doesn't stay true to what has gotten them where they are, because they've proven time and time again how efficient it has been, especially in Europe and especially in big stadiums as well.
Okay, then the other way around, who do you think will be Bodo Glimt's biggest problem from this Ajax side?
Good question.
Brian Brobbey.
That's my guess as well.
I have a comment right here from Roy. I'm sorry, not this one. Oh man, sorry. If Ajax plays like we did against PSV, we will win. Brobbey is unstoppable in this form, basically. So yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree, and I think that I'm not going to say that the center backs of Bodo Glimt are stale and not able to move and such, because they are. But again, who can move and who can sort of stop Brobbey once he gets into form? I think that when you look at the tactics, sort of Ajax, I think that the first name that's on there for Bodo Glimt would be Brobbey. How do we stop him? But I think that stopping a player like Brobbey is also to make sure that he doesn't get the ball, that the service doesn't get to him. And how do you stop the service from getting to him? It's obviously to sort of stop and congest those areas in which the balls often play to Brobbey. So the likes of, as you mentioned, Henderson there, for example, I think that there'll be a lot of emphasis on making sure that those sort of ball players are not able to be given time on the ball in order to play up Brobbey in those situations. So I see it more of that. I don't necessarily see that they're going to, man mark Brobbey, for example, or man mark anyone, but more so to stop the supply lines, as we've seen that done with other teams here in Norway. And I think, if you press Ajax deep, if you're able to do so, the distance for Brobbey is going to be longer and longer away from the ball as well. So I think that's one way of doing it. But yeah, I mean, of course, if Brobbey gets on the ball and he gets and is able to turn towards goal, I think, chances are it's going to be dangerous one way or another anyways.
Pierre, can I go to the comments?
Yeah, definitely, you can.
Okay, thank you. Ian is saying, as a Bodo Glimt fan, I think if we don't lose at the Johan Cruyff, we will go through. We almost never lose at home.
Yeah, I agree. And it has a lot to do with that pitch up there. It has a lot to do with their pitch. It's artificial. The ball goes a little quicker. It'll be cold up there, more than likely. Be very cold up there.
Yeah.
They might have
How are the measurements of the pitch? Is it smaller or is it wider? Oh, it's smaller. Okay.
Congested.
Okay.
Very congested. So, but a lot of people said that would be an issue when they went to the Olimpico as well to face Roma. But it showed that they were close to beating Roma as well. I believe that had there been VAR for that one goal that Roma scored, that goal would have been disallowed and Bodo Glimt would have won in Rome as well. So it's a bit of a myth that they're not able to play on bigger pitches and that they're only good at that small artificial pitch that they have. But it is a small artificial pitch nonetheless, and it's difficult to play if you're not used to playing on that pitch. They're very used to playing on it. So I kind of agree with that statement. If they don't lose, or if they don't lose too hard, I think that there's actually a big advantage to Bodo Glimt, because obviously they're so used to that pitch as well. And I think if you're used to it the way that they are, I think that you automatically have an advantage prior to the game even starting. And I don't think the climate will play as an advantage to any team that faces them up there.
Yeah, it puts a little bit of pressure on us as well to have a good result the first game. So,
certainly.
Yeah, I don't have any questions anymore. There are no comments anymore. Per, Luke, anything for Jonas?
That's it for me.
For me, man.
No? Jonas, look, I have a question which is not related to Bodo, just personal, also for the people that are watching. First of all, many thanks. It's been a blast. You have told us and we know much more about the team, about the coach, about the playing style, everything. So very thankful. If people want to hear more from you, what can they do? I mean, of course, your Twitter account, it's in our description in the link, so people can look there. I know you have a podcast, like I said, the La Liga, but listening to you, I think you watch everything. So so let's say people are interested maybe in other leagues, and you have something to say about that. What's the best thing for them to do?
Follow me on Twitter at your own behest. There's a lot of funny and stupid takes there, a lot of different sort of topics. Yeah, I do watch a lot of football. I mean, it's my passion. As we said at the top of the show, I'm sort of paid to do it, am I not? So I kind of have to do that. And yeah, to those who wish, cheap plug, download FC Quiz, which is my football quiz app, and compete against the world in different sorts of quizzes and trivia. So that's sort of in ways to follow me, both on Twitter and also making my day a lot better by downloading the quiz. Perhaps there'll be an Ajax quiz there very soon. Who knows?
We'll see. It depends whether we win or not, right?
Probably.
All right. Jonas, thank you so much.
Thank you guys for having me. Really being a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Same for us. Thank you. Take care. Bye. So guys, what's your reaction after hearing him? Quickly. Thoughts?
It's the same. It's the same. I told you Knutsen was the guy. I'm still on about he's the guy, and I'm sure I said that Bodo would make it very difficult for us.
Yeah, you did.
So
yeah, Bear, what's your initial thought right after hearing him out? I mean, I know you follow
very similar.
Yeah,
I also think it will be interesting to take a look at a couple of players from their team, especially Gronbeck and Gulliksen. I think they could be interesting for us in the future.
Yeah. Roy is saying, I think I've mentioned Gulliksen to Juan a couple of times. Actually, Roy, you mentioned so many names here as well to me that I sometimes get confused. You guys watch so many games and so many players. I mean, it's really impressive, to be honest. Biren is saying, how can we get Knutsen to stay in the Cruyff Arena? Is there any way to lure him in? Like maybe chocolate or something? Or some other cuisine?
We just close the gate and then we'll just leave him there.
We have to find
swap him for Bergwijn. Send Bergwijn in a Bodo shirt.
Oh, man, come on. Let's stay positive, man. Let's stay positive. Maybe Bergwijn will be the difference maker for us against Bodo. Who knows? Who knows? We're still waiting for him to, we saw Berghuis just picking up his form. Brobbey is being incredible. Bergwijn is the last one.
He did impress me with his defensive work against PSV.
That's true.
He actually tracked back.
Which is the next subject, actually. I wanted to ask you guys. Just quickly, we already played the PSV game. We have Heerenveen coming up in the weekend. Just to finalize this session, let's talk a little bit about what's ahead of us, but also what happened in the PSV. I think we have to mention the PSV game because that was a real test case for many people, for Van het Schip, but also for the players as a team. How can we compete against a PSV team? And I'm not allowed to say that, but I have to be objective. That is basically very good this season, undefeated in the league. What were the key takeaways for you, for as a team maybe? Tactics or maybe players? Pierre, let me go with you first.
Well, the biggest key takeaway is that we're still not playing like Ajax. That's my takeaway almost every game this season. It's quite annoying at this point. But I don't think we will ever play like Ajax under Van Schip. Even though we're
what do you
definitely
mean by that? What
improving,
do you mean by that? Pierre?
we're not going to press high. We're not going to try quick combinations, create attacks through the flanks as well as through the middle. We're throwing a lot of long balls out there, which Ajax would never do in the past. So those are still some key things that I'm slightly confused about, and that also basically show that Van Schip will only be there this season, and he definitely won't stay after, at least not in this role.
Yeah. What about players? Like maybe mention one or two players that maybe stood out positively or negatively, or because it's also a test case for the players, right? We can assess them at that level, how they're doing, because we've played, of course, RKC, Go Ahead Eagles, all these names. But with all due respect, we have to look at them when they play better side.
Yeah, well, the first one's very obvious. I mean, it's Henderson, not for the ball playing, but mostly for his coaching. You immediately saw him point and scream at every single player. Every time they seemed to get a little drowsy, he'd wake them up. He's a leader. You could see it straight away. The other one that surprised me most positively is Gooijer. I'm not that big on Gooijer because he's very solid, but in my opinion, he kind of lacks something special. But he was so solid in this game that I was actually disappointed when he got subbed off, especially for Guy, which is not someone I really rate. So that's a compliment to him.
Yeah, Pierre, just a follow-up question. When you say you're not really very fond of Gooijer, he lacks something special. Are you talking about his technical ability or maybe his attacking, being adventurous? What are you measuring?
It's mostly the attacking. I don't think he really has the speed to be very attacking. And however, even though his ball control is very good, he still looks a little clunky at times as well.
Okay.
He's not one that can just dribble past someone like Mazraoui did, for example.
Right.
I don't see him like that, at least.
Yeah, but he's our best option on the right.
Yeah, no, definitely your best option at the right. Unless, of course, you're playing Rensch on the right, then
would you prefer Rensch over Gooijer?
It's a tough comparison. I think Rensch's ball playing is better, but I think Gooijer is defensively more solid.
Okay, all right. Anything else you want to add about the PSV game?
I was a little bit disappointed with the goal we conceded. It was a very poor defensive showing. Luc de Jong was just there almost on his own. Sosa tried to walk in, but I mean, he's just getting bodied at this point.
Look,
we all know he's not great defensively, so you need to help him, and that hasn't been done.
That's true. Look, one final question for me about the PSV game. Papimento, of course, did the game talk after. He got a lot of heat from our viewers, some of our viewers, not all of them, of course, because there's some kind of there are Ajax fans looking at it both ways. Some of them are really proud of because you could see the work rate and everybody as a team, we were as a unit playing and doing everything we can. But in terms of playing the Ajax way and these kind of things, we kind of became a little bit more sitting deep, like you said, like these kind of things. But some Ajax fans were like, look, we have to be realistic. Look where we're coming from. Look who we're playing against, these kind of things. So actually, I'm very happy with this. And some people like Puppy, maybe, I'm not saying he's not happy with the result, but he felt like it could have been better, in terms of playing, but also in terms of result, because we had chances to win that game as well. How do you feel about that? Where do you stand?
It's a bit a glass half full, glass half empty. I'd say mine is still more empty, but mostly because I still wanted Ajax to pick a coach that was going to be there for the long term, and we didn't do that. And it's clearly showing because, yes, we're sort of improving, but we're not improving in the way I would like to see Ajax improve.
More like game style, game.
Yeah,
the way
exactly.
You play. Okay, all right. Luke, what about you? PSV.
It's quite difficult because I'm very proud of the team. I'm very proud of the team. Okay, I saw Bergwijn chase back and help Rensch towards the start of the game, and even in the final minutes, he was chasing back on the right. He was on right wing for some reason, but he was up trying to help. guy at the back, and that's something you don't really see from him. If you do, it's very small periods in a match. So you saw a side of these players that you're not used to seeing, which is grit, it's determination. And it's like we said before on the live talks, it becomes about the occasion. It's the rivalry as opposed to the form that PSV are in. PSV didn't play like they're a team that's only drawn one game before us and won the rest.
Yeah,
they barely did anything, apart from a couple. The header hit the bar. I know they hit the post at the bar, and then the goal they scored. But for me, it's just like I'm just very proud with the players and the effort they put in. But the fans that want to see a certain Ajax style of play, they're gonna have to wait a while because we're in a transition period, aren't we? So you have to be conservative, and this it reminds me of everything's Arsenal related with me because this is what I see in England. But when Arteta came in, he had to play with a back three and win the FA Cup with a back three, and it was nothing compared to what he does with the team now. So whether or not Van Schip is here at the end of the season, we have to persevere with what we have, and what we have is some players that can do some things and not others. So you have to try and find your way around it. But at the same time, you can see the quality that Henderson possesses even in his pressing. So whilst we don't press very well, whenever someone went forward, he would jump onto the next player just behind. So he was ready to pounce on that player should the ball come in. And if we were to get like-minded players like that know how to press, the pressing will be significantly better. And maybe we don't press properly because some players don't know how to press, for me. So it's about persevering. And everyone would love to see Knutsen ball, like Jonas said, high pressing, everyone going forward and attacking football. Of course, everyone would love to see it. But some players just aren't able to do so. And we have to kind of stick it out and wait until everything's in place with a new manager, if there is going to be, with a new culture or whatever the culture is going to be, and hopefully better players coming in.
Yeah. Do you feel, just final question about the PSV game, do you feel like, not for us, because we have different opinions as Ajax fans, but do you think by looking at how we reacted or how the players reacted or the interviews from Schip, do you feel like it was, although it's strange to say that because it was a draw, but it was a confidence boost going into the remainder of the season?
Absolutely. You've drawn with top of the table who are in the lead by what, like 10 points, 12 points?
No,
9 points?
20 plus.
20, whatever it is, it's ridiculous amount, right? And they've not lost a game, and only until recently they won every single game. They scored like 60 goals already, or something really stupid like that.
Yeah.
Why would you not be happy, or why would you not be confident with a draw against top of the table, considering we were 18th out of 18? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's true. That's absolutely right. Yeah. But Pierre doesn't look happy still. That's the thing.
The biggest compliment I could possibly give them is that I didn't believe we were ever going to end up in the third place, and now I do. So that's a very positive thing.
Pierre, do you not see any, like you say that you would like to see combinations and things like that? Do you not see any? I see some. I see progression of, like, when Linson comes wide and he plays 1-2s, or Berghuis plays a 1-2 with Brobbey sometimes, and the combination where the ball went to Brobbey, he headed it on to Bergwijn at the back post, and obviously Bergwijn missing as he always does, but that's a combination. And
that's definitely improvement. But then again, even a broken clock strikes the right time 2 times a day.
Wow, that's really half empty, man. To be honest.
Yeah, it is really half empty because I'm just not happy with the way it's going. It's not progressing well enough. And I don't think Van Schip knows how to progress it in the way that we would all like to see it progressed. I do have a question for you guys, just something completely different. I would like you guys to think about what our midfield is going to be.
When?
With Henderson coming in, of course. And also Branko van der Bomen being...
You mean when everybody is fit? When everybody is fit. Okay, you know what? Let's hold this question until the very end. No, really, until the very end. We'll talk about this. This gives also time for our viewers to give us their favorite midfield or what they think the midfield should be. So that's a great question. I'm going through the comments quickly, and then I have a question actually, which is a little bit related to Christian. It's funny how Christian is asking questions that are already prepared. It's funny. I didn't communicate with him. I didn't talk to him in advance. But Christian is saying, gentlemen, the left back position being one of our major problems, and Rensch performing pretty good against PSV, although it was very, just 15 minutes or something. Is this the best solution for the rest of the season? So I will ask you guys this question. You can answer Christian. And my follow-up questions on that is, we know Rensch probably will not be available against Heerenveen on Sunday. Would you consider just one-on-one Sosa on the left, or maybe putting Kaplan in and moving Hato to the left? Go ahead. Per, you can take it first.
It's a tough one, because I still think it's ridiculous that Kaplan hasn't made his debut yet. I know he's been injured for a long time, but he's also been back for months now, and he's been in the squad for weeks as well. And he's been doing so well at young Ajax. He should definitely have the opportunity to play. It also depends on the side you're playing. I think defensively it would be better to play with Hato on the left and Kaplan in the center. But offensively, it would be better to play with Hato in the center and Sosa on the left.
Okay.
So I'd argue weaker teams we'd play Sosa, and better teams you could try Kaplan.
Do you favor if everybody's fit? Do you favor Sosa or Rensch on the left?
If everybody's fit, I favor Rensch over Sosa at this point. I think defensively, Sosa has been so bad, and offensively he wasn't really there yet either in the last game, which I was quite disappointed with, actually. But also because we are playing with Brobbey as a striker, and even though he should be good with crosses, he's not great with crosses.
Who's not great with crosses? Who's not great? Sosa.
Brobbey is not great with
that's what you
crosses.
mean. Yeah.
That's what I mean.
True. Yeah.
Sosa's crosses, of course, but
yeah, of course. Luke, what about you? You have to think deep about this one. All right.
No, I do, because and this is not poking fun at you, Pierre, but Ajax fans always talk about wanting to be on the ball and wanting to dominate the game all the time, and then they come up, not just you, but other people saying, "I'll put Hato at the left and Kaplan in the middle." But if you want to be attacking, play Sosa. And it's like, which one would you want? You either want to be defensively stable, or you want to be able to be good attacking. And it's like, if you were the perfect defensive and attacking team, would be Champions League winners every single year, right? So you have to persevere. And if you want to play an attacking game, you have to have attacking-minded players. And I'm not saying that Hato can't do that, but does Kaplan? We don't know what he offers. Does he offer what Hato offers? Does he offer what Sutalo offers? We haven't seen him yet, so we can't judge it. Medic definitely can't. I would prefer Rensch on the left. I think he did really well before he got injured. And this season, for some reason, since Van Schip has come in, he's shown like a real sense of maturity. He doesn't do stupid things. Like I feel really bad now, but I used to call him an idiot, right? Because every time he get the ball on the right back, he would just pass it to someone, the other team. He would do something really stupid, like run into nowhere. But now he shows a lot of maturity, and he passes it at the right time, and his decision making has become better. And I don't know if it's because of the manager. Stein might have put him under a stupid amount of pressure and maybe bullied him or something, and he didn't like it. But he shows a lot more maturity. So I would continue with him on the left if he's fit. But if he's obviously not fit, then I would rather Sosa, because I would rather think about us on the ball as opposed to off the ball. And I think if you take Hato away from the left, from the centre back, I feel like you lose what he offers, and that's covering and that pace and the ability to win last-ditch tackles just in front of the defence. And obviously we don't know what Kaplan offers, and I don't think we can trust Medic at this point either. So
and maybe we don't want to change the centre too much, right? Because Sutalo just came in.
And he's showing a little bit of consistency now. Like he's really becoming more confident with the ball. So maybe with Henderson, it could all gel together really nicely, right?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let me go through the comments quickly. Brian is reacting to Knutsen. He's saying, I heard Peter Zwart from VE saying that Knutsen is not the guy for Ajax. It's funny because Papimento, who's also in the chat, thank you for that, Papi. He's asking based on what, Brian? So basically, he's helping us with this. And then Brian is reacting. He's saying he studied his play style. He has only one playing style. It was on VE last week. Did somebody catch that one? Did somebody read it? I didn't see that, to be honest. If not, we can just move. It's fine.
With all due respect, I don't understand the need for more than one play style. I mean, Ajax has always had one play style. And yeah, you can have a plan B, but the main thing is that you execute that one play style very well. And if you can do that, you don't need another one.
Coaches
Yeah,
have
I remember-
philosophies, right? So
Yeah, I remember Bos when he was with Ajax at the time. He used to have a lot of criticism from the media as well because of that, because he didn't have any plan B, you know. So yeah,
sometimes you don't need it. Sometimes, because the thing is, well, what kind of confidence that do you give to your squad if it shows that your idea is not working? Right?
Does Guardiola play with the plan B? Does Klopp play with the plan B? Does the Zerbi play with the plan B?
I mean, Postecoglou, I think, is also a very good example. He's got one play style, and that's the play style he's going to play. And if you keep hammering down on that, they're going to improve, and they're going to do it better and better every time.
Exactly.
And they are also going to learn how to deal with tough situations. If you change the play style the first game that it doesn't work, you're never going to be as good with that one play style.
This is it. Look at Pep. Look how many years he's done that at
Yeah,
Man
yeah.
City. And look
Exactly.
at so.
Exactly. Björn is saying, I hope Bergwijn can do the same against the rest of our opponents. He always brings some extra against PSV. Yeah, let's hope
I
so.
hope so too.
Yeah, Christian is saying, Juan, we talked about this yesterday, remember? I don't recall anything, but I'm not going to say anything. Then let's go through the comments. People are reacting already to your question, Pierre, before we also maybe mention the midfield. B is saying midfield of Henderson, Van der Boma, and Linssen for now. Berghuis on the right wing. And he's also adding to that, we can use more creativity as a whole. I also feel like the creativity lately is coming mostly from Berghuis, right?
It's because Bergwijn's not that kind of player. I think if you had the same type of player, maybe on the left, you could, Linssen could then rotate at what space gets created, and then one player could come in. I think it would take a lot of burden off Berghuis at the moment. So
yeah. Just stepping out of Ajax quickly, Yella saying, "Can you please refund us for Anthony?" I'm sorry, bro. No refunds. No refunds. Sorry.
You don't have a ticket. You don't have a ticket.
Maybe, look, I'll be honest with you. Anthony doesn't look like the same Anthony that played for Ajax. So there's something that happened. Maybe his confidence level dropped significantly.
He had that whole thing, didn't he? That whole accusation thing, didn't he?
As well,
So
personal
maybe it's
things.
that.
Yeah.
Then again, he was never worth about 100 million.
No, of course he wasn't. Yeah, of course. Papi is reacting as well to the midfield, saying Henderson, Van der Boom, and Linssen. And if we need to be more defensive, Tahirovic, Henderson, Linssen. The thing is, I'm looking at those midfield names. If you look at how we're playing now, like if you take PSV, right? Taylor and Linssen, although they have certain instructions, like what you said, Luke, Linssen a little bit on the right, going to the right, helping out Berghuis. Taylor very much connecting with Brobbey, coming to the box as well. It seems like we're playing almost one pivot, two attacking midfielders. But if I look at these combinations, can we expect Van der Bomen to make the same runs forward as Taylor, for instance? Doesn't it change a lot of our dynamic on the midfield? Yeah. So because I understand people want Van der Bomen to play, I'm wondering whether it will benefit us in that regard, to be honest. But yeah.
Let's look at it from a different perspective. Could Henderson make the runs?
No.
Not with the legs, I don't think.
No.
I don't think so either.
He never really did that for Liverpool either. He kind of just sit there, didn't he? I think if Mannsverk is as good as Jonas said, then maybe he can make those runs forward. Maybe he's got the legs to be able to do what Taylor can't do or should be able to do, but can't,
Yeah, absolutely. Christian is reacting midfield with Henderson, Van der Boom, and Linssen. Yeah, a lot of people want Van der Boom, basically. Go ahead.
Can I just say, when we did the lineups a few months ago and we were talking about our midfield, I know I had young players in there. I had Linssen in there from day one. Can I just say? Like,
of course. You can say that.
This guy, what a player, by the way.
You always smile when you talk about Linssen. You always smile.
Because he's just so simple and so smart. He does everything unselfishly. Everyone gets more chances because he's making space and then he pops up in the right time at the right place to score a goal. It's just like,
I like him too. Very intelligent.
Fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Roel van der Sande is saying Henderson, Mannsverk, Linssen. That's an interesting one. If we heard Jonas, he said, did you guys know that Mannsverk was that talented? He actually got me excited.
He's very, very talented, but I do still think his reaction speed is a little low, so I hope he can improve on that. Okay. If he does, he'll be fantastic.
Yeah. Dan is saying Hendo, Branco, and Knutsen, but depending on the game, I'd swap Tahirovic in. Taylor just isn't it at the moment, sadly. Yeah. But
The
you
thing
guys
I'm
feel-
worried about is that I
Mhm.
think Van Schip will play Henderson, Van der Bome, and then also Taylor.
and
that
sacrifice
would be-
Knutsen, you think?
Yeah, I think so, and that would be terrible. But mostly based on status or status, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
I feel like Henderson has to play, and I feel like Van der Bome, before he got injured, was our best player in the midfield. So if you'd argue both of those have to play, then will you actually sub off Taylor and also risk the fact that he won't be valued at the price he's valued at now?
Yeah, we always, in like you're mentioning this now, and we always have these discussions about other players as well. But do you really think like a coach plays a player because of how much he can be worth, or he represents a value, or these kind of things?
I'm not saying a coach should do that. I'm
Yeah.
saying an interim coach should definitely consider that.
Okay.
I mean,
right.
it matters a lot to us if he's worth 50 million at the end of the transfer window or 15.
But yeah, I agree. But I think it's more important that we get the third place than not reach the third place, right? For the qualification, probably.
Yeah, but do you think we can't do that with Taylor?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that that should be mostly the consideration, not so much,
Okay,
that-
but would you first try Taylor or start with Linson and maybe try Taylor later?
I don't see. Look, I'm looking at profile of players, right? Can Linson do what Taylor does? I don't think so. I think they're different.
They're
You
different
understand what I
players.
mean?
They're different players.
They're different.
I agree that they're
would-
different, but Taylor should be able to play a 10 role.
No, I understand that, but I mean, I'm trying to say that Taylor is much more eager to come into the box, to feed it, connecting with Brobbey, these kind of things. While Linson has always been now given instructions to play a little bit on the right to help out Berghuis. So if you take Linson out, also maybe it will impact Berghuis as well. You understand what I mean?
So.
Yeah,
You
no, I
see-
completely agree. I think Linson deserves to play, and I think he would be the better choice at 10 at the moment.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure whether that's going to happen when Branco is back.
Yeah, we'll see.
I don't think Van der Boomen starts. I think he still tries to persevere for Taylor, because what you get from Taylor, you don't get from any other. What you should get from Taylor, is different to what you get from other players. Because when he's enjoying his football and he looks like he's playing well, he makes those runs into the box and he does link up. Whatever he does on the ball, I know we all criticize Taylor, but his profile and what he does offer is a box-to-box midfielder.
Yeah.
Right. And so he manages to go and make those dynamic runs with the space that Linson needs. If you compare players, Linson's more like Berghuis, in my opinion. Look, when Berghuis got just in terms of playing as a 10 or could play out wide, because when Berghuis got subbed off, he moved to the right. So I think they're quite similar in the sense of they can play like a 10 out wide. I'm not saying he's going to be the same creativity and things like that, but you could play Linson out wide more than Taylor as a 10, in my opinion. So I feel like they're two different. If you look at lines, you have your 6s, you have your 8s, and then you have your 10s. I think Berghuis and Linson are 10s, and then you have Taylors that are your 8s. And I don't know if...
I think that's fair. I still don't think Linson can play on the wings, to be honest. I don't like it when he plays there. It
just in
feels like he's
comparison
just-
of a player is what I meant.
But I do understand what you're trying to say, and I agree. But then again, players like Taylor, but also Van der Bome, they have played as a 10 in the past. So I could see Van Schip try that, and I wouldn't be surprised, at least. It would be really hard to bench Branco if he's actually as good as he was when he got injured.
If he could do a box-to-box role, then obviously start him ahead of Taylor. But I
But he can also rotate with Henderson. They can both play both 6, 8s. So
Yeah, definitely. Could
absolutely.
also happen.
although we have to question whether they have the legs, right, to do that. But let's see. BRN, a lot of still people reacting to the midfield question. So let me go. BRN is saying Henderson, Tahirovic with Taylor on 10, probably. Branco with Henderson is too slow, static for my liking. Also, Dan basically saying the same. Only thing I'd worry about with the Branco Hendo midfield is a lack of pace. So Papi is saying the Van der Bome passing could create so much for us. adding creativity as well, maybe to the squad. And Rule is saying to me, Juan, just wait, Mannsverk is going to be a force.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
And one of the most interesting things as well is that Heerenveen has been rarely named by anyone, even though I
And
think
the
he's
thing
been
is-
playing really well lately.
He's improving. You can see also he's improving. Yeah, as a
But
player.
I think he's a deeper player. Like if you were to play two deeper players, you'd play him and Henderson, for example. I think if you want a defensive-minded, like last 10 minutes, sit back kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, I agree. You could also sub him on after like 70 minutes.
B is saying Henderson will be a teacher for our young squad. Yeah, absolutely. Soren is saying, finally we have a right back, Hoyer. Very happy about Hoyer. Björn is saying, last Monday against Jong Utrecht, you saw a few glimpses of Mannsverk. I don't want to compare them, but he had those type of Frankie de Jong rushes, if you know what I mean. Per, you're closing your eyes. What does that
I mean,
mean?
he does, but he's slower than Frankie.
Yeah,
He's just
okay.
quite a
of
bit
course.
slower.
Yeah.
So he's very technical for a more defensive midfielder.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see.
No, absolutely. B is saying, what's your guys' opinion of Rensch? I think we already covered that. I feel like he was always a bit light in former squads, but he's showing himself more this season on various positions. What's his best position for us? Will he stay? I think we already mentioned the first part, but maybe the final part. Let me just bring it up again. What's his best position? That's very interesting always. And will he stay? I think his contract, Per, do you know his contract will expire not this summer, next summer?
I could check, but I'm not sure. Give me a second.
Luke, maybe you can take, especially the question from B at the end. What do you feel his best position is, basically?
It's definitely one of the backs. I think it's dependent on how strong we are at the backs, and he's not the best, but like I said earlier, he's really shown a different side, different level of his game. He's very much more composed, more mature. Will he stay? It's quite difficult because whenever like a team in the Premier League, for example, will show interest, you just want to go there, don't you? And it doesn't even matter what team come in for you. It's a step, it's a foot in the door there, isn't it? And with his versatility and his ability that he has played in the midfield sometimes, and he can play in the as a centre back, and he can play either side at the backs as well. It is very, very valuable, especially for those teams in the Premier League like Timber. You know, he could play all across the back. Lisandro Martinez could play left back and centre back as well. So versatility is something that's kind of like I say left back, but like if he needed to do a job there, he could do it. Not that he's good there, but versatility is a big thing in football. And I feel like if someone were to show interest in a different league, a bigger league, I feel like his head could be turned. I would like him to stay because I feel like if he keeps performing at this level and improving on this consistency and this decision making, he could become valuable for us even more so. And
even though he's young, even though he's young still, if you look at his age, but he played more than 100 games for Ajax. Do you feel like he still has room to grow? Do you feel like he can become even a better player?
Absolutely.
Because some players reach kind of almost their maximum at a very young stage of their career, and some players reach that in the middle of their career. Some players at the end of their career. How do you feel about Rensch in that regard?
I think he'll be one that gets it in the middle. I don't think his ceiling's amazingly high. I think he could be consistent. If we were to get a better back, he'd be really good backup. You know, a rotation player. Yeah. Unfortunately, we're not blessed with backs, so he has to play. And in fairness to him, he's doing very well. But I think that with him, he just needs to have the right people around him, a settled team, because you have to remember that these players, they basically lost 2 seasons because of Schroeder, because of you know, Stein, etc. So that's 2 years of development essentially gone in a bad atmosphere, or basically, you know, and it's not settled. So hopefully now with Henderson, we get more players like-minded like Henderson, professional players. There could be good players around him, and it can really have a positive effect on him.
Yeah. I feel Per, maybe you can react as well. Just quickly on Rensch.
I checked the contract situation, by the way. His contract expires in 2025, meaning that we'd have to either sell him this season or make him extend his contract.
What would you opt for? What would you go for?
I would extend the contract probably if he keeps playing like this. Then again, if a Prem club comes along and they'll offer, let's say, 25 to 30 million for Rensch, you should let him go. because Hoyer is doing very well. And
Exactly.
I'm
So
happy
if
with
we
that.
would keep him, if we would keep him and prolong his contract, aren't you maybe blocking development of Hoyer on the right? And is he really going to be a permanent solution for us on the left? Or maybe we're going to find somebody else on the left?
Yeah, those are very good questions, of course. And
Yeah.
I mean, we have so many left backs at this point. I mean, we have Avila, Sosa, Marta,
Yeah.
even Hato. We're getting Wijndal back at the end of the season.
Exactly.
We've
Exactly.
got more
forgot.
left backs than any other position in the squad. I think we still have Salahideen as well, or did we actually sell him to Twente? I
We
didn't.
sold,
We sold
man.
him. Yeah. We
Okay,
sold.
that's good news. At least that's one less.
Yeah.
But there's so many, it's crazy.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I'm not sure whether you would like to play Rensch as a left back, because even then, all those other left backs are just useless from that point on.
Yeah.
Maybe except for one.
No, I understand. I feel Rensch as a position. I think the right back, like what you said, Luke, is his best position, but I don't see him like a Mazraoui fullback that goes very deep, like even ends up in the box. I feel like he could benefit from being more like an inverted right back. I think that's his best position, to be honest.
Yeah.
So even if he leaves Ajax, he has to go for a team that plays a little bit like that, very possession based, has a coach that kind of likes to play inverted, a bit like what Arsenal does, to be honest.
If you want to say Arsenal, they just say it, man.
Look, to be honest with you, even though I don't know if we should be believing this, but he's been linked with Arsenal a couple of times already this season.
But even with the way that the Liverpool have been playing, I think they've been having Trent go into midfield a lot. And obviously, I don't know if that's the way they're going to go with Klopp leaving, etc. But if they were to go to the other side, and he's not as creative, obviously. But if we're talking about him being inverted and a bit more defensive and just holding the shape, and Trent going and roaming, it could be something like that. But I have a question for you, Juan, actually. Don't get scared. Wijndal comes back at the end of the season, all right? If Schip is still here, do you see him having a part to play in the team? Do you think he will get an opportunity on the left side, considering the quality we have and the fact he's playing Marta there because of the lack of quality there? Do you think that Wijndal could have a place in the team come the new season if Van Schip is still here?
It's a very unlikely situation because I really I think we have a very slim chance of keeping Van Schip after this season, to be honest, as a coach. But let's say it happens. I think Van Schip probably already has discussed quite extensively with the technical people what they want to add. They already spoken about it in January, but because of lack of funds and financially, they didn't really go for certain things. I think they're going to capitalize on that. Even today, there was an interview with Ajax Live. He said that they want to continue restoring balance in the squad. And to restore the balance, basically, you have to look at profile of players. First, what I think will happen is a lot of the players that Mislintat got in, not all of them, but most of them will leave. They will try to sell them. And I think Wijndal had this opportunity. I mean, you don't know how things go. Maybe he will have a fighting chance in the summer, with training camp and stuff. But I don't see it because he struggled at Ajax. And at Antwerp, I know he's playing, but he's not standing out in that team.
Yeah, he's not doing a lot, is he? No.
So, and Antwerp is, I wouldn't say the same quality as Ajax, although some Belgian people that are watching maybe will get upset with me, but I mean it the good way. So I don't see it, to be honest. I'll be fair about that. Is that an okay answer to your question?
Yeah, man. Listen,
right.
Not just the host, sometimes the panel as well.
I'm getting more questions from you guys. I know what you guys are doing. All right. All right. Pierre, let me give you this question, and then we're gonna wrap things up. I have a final question, of course, as always. So I'll leave that to the end. Soren is saying, guys, how far do you see Ajax going in the Conference League? We still have to win for Bodo, though. But yeah, let's see.
Yeah, I mean, quality-wise, we could win the entire thing. But if we play like this, I'd say at least the semi-final still. The quality in the competition just really isn't that high.
Yeah. How much do you think it really depends on Brobbey keeping his form and these kind of individual players that are really standing out?
Right? If Brobbey goes back to his form from the start of the season, we're doomed. It's over.
I don't think
you're
he does,
going to need Akpom to score a lot. But don't think Brobbey does either. I think he'll keep scoring.
Yeah.
He's been fantastic, and you can see the improvement. You can see the improvement.
Yeah, for sure. Even without the goals, even if he doesn't score goals, the fact that he's able to run while people are hanging onto his shirt and still run, you know, and things like Romalo couldn't handle him at the weekend. You know, he even went down holding his face when Brobbey shoulder barged him, trying to get him sent off. And, you know, if he can manage that temperament of his, because I know sometimes he gets really frustrated, then he'll become an even better player. But I think the fact that he can last 90 minutes now and maybe even more, and the intensity of matches makes him able to receive the ball higher in more positions, longer in games, and he becomes more of a target man than before. So even if there's no goals, he's able, with the flick on he did, the chest in the box and the headers and stuff to flick on, it's just like a different Brobbey, isn't it?
Yeah, he looks like different.
Yeah, definitely. I've actually got a bone to pick with the rules. The fact that someone can hold on to Brobbey for as long as some of the players have been doing lately is ridiculous.
Yeah,
I feel like you should get a yellow just for holding on to him, and then another yellow for unsportsmanlike behavior or something.
Or a broken
It's
ankle.
getting ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous.
I agree. But yeah, I agree. B is saying, quickly, I'm sorry, before I go to B. So you say semifinals should be reachable, Pierre?
I think so.
Win the whole thing, but semifinals should be, something we can reach. Luke, you feel the same way?
I don't think we beat Bodo.
Oh, really? You think it's going to be, but do you think it's going to be just a narrow loss from them?
Yeah.
Or what do you think?
Yeah.
I also think it will be tough, though. It will be like a 3-2 win or something like that if we win.
I know that Jonas said, they're not in season, but, they haven't got to play league matches at the moment. So they could play a friendly when they want, and they can have time to rest and prepare, which, okay, they're not going to be match fit in a sense where they're playing the week in, week out. But, in a case where we've played at the weekend, they've had a longer break in the week. Their players might be fresher. And they've shown that they can go and beat Roma 6-1 in the same, in a competition, with games, So imagine if they could do that while playing in their league, and then they have no games to play in their preseason, so they might be fresher.
So your opinion is a little bit different from Jonas in the sense that you don't think them not being mid-season or in the middle of the season is that big of a negative for them.
No, it is. Listen, I'm not going against a journalist that gets paid to watch football, man. So
you can have your own opinion.
But I think that it's glass half empty, half full, as Pierre loves to say. It's you're fresh and you haven't got to play your league matches. You can focus purely on Europe, but at the same time, you're not playing league games. You're not quite as sharp as you was in the season. But the quality that they have in their squad might be enough to, overshadow the lack of sharpness potentially.
Just to be clear, also for our viewers, for our viewers, you will be cheering for Ajax, right? I know you're a very big Bodo fan. But...
Listen. I love Ajax. There's no way. Listen, cool, I hope.
I was worried for a bit. No, all right.
No,
okay.
Listen, I would love to go. Obviously, win the whole thing. If we can get past Bodo, I think we can win the whole thing. But it's the northern part of Norway. It's cold. And considering the season we've had, they can go and win, finish first place in their league, and everything's happy-go-lucky. We've had to grind our way from the bottom of the Eredivisie, which I thought, something you'd never ever say, right? And managed to get it back. So, two different seasons.
Yeah. I do think the transfer window will also play them a bit apart. I mean, they've lost a couple good players, and they've also gained a couple new good players, but they still have to adjust to the play style.
Yeah.
So I do think that could be a big factor in us winning.
He kind of.
But it could also be a big factor in us losing, of course. I mean, if these players adapt really well and play really well, we're in trouble.
Yeah, of course. He kind of admitted it as well, but Pellegrino is really a big loss, right?
Oh, yeah. What a player he was for them. I think he scored about 25 goals, I think, in their league season as well. So it's really
he had crazy stats, man. Serious. Also assist-wise, he had double figures.
Really silly. Yeah.
And again, keeping Grunback is crazy.
Yeah, he said he's a very good player, very important player for the team as well.
I think this is becoming weTalk Bodo as opposed to weTalk.
No, okay. We're finalizing. We're wrapping up now. We're wrapping up now. B is saying great answers, guys. Thanks. That's about the Rensch question that he had. You're welcome, B. BRN is saying there seems to be much interest in Rensch from Premier League teams. Sell for a good price, in my opinion, if we can capitalize. Basically, also Pierre, you said that as well. I see Christian has the last question, which is also my last question. So, okay, Christian, I will use your last question then. But before I do, just going through the other comments. Adnan is saying, maybe Pierre, you can take this one. Is Mannsverk a Pjanic type of player?
That's tough. I haven't seen Pjanic play in forever, of course.
It's been a while.
I've got to refresh my memory a bit. Who could I compare him to myself? He's very technical, a little slow, reasonably tall, reasonably decent in the duels. His positioning is okay. He just needs to speed it up. If he can speed it up, I think he's a more defensive, more physical player than Pjanic, is what I would guess. Also, less of a passer, maybe, even though his passing is pretty good.
All right, we'll go with that. I have Tina. She's saying Glimt beat Roma 6-1 and draw to us at away and won at home in Bodo. We're absolutely not underestimating Bodo. Don't be fooled. We're having fun. We're talking about it. But Jonas also made sure that we know what we're facing. So absolutely mad respect for Bodo. And we're looking forward to the games. Thank you, Tina. BRN is saying, Bodo gives me flashbacks of the matches against Salzburg. BRN, why do you have to go that way, man? Why do you have to go to that game? And then he's saying, but we got Brobbey. So
we do have Brobbey.
We do have
Ballon d'Or winner 2025.
Oh, wow.
Give him an extra year, 2026.
Final question.
Mbappe.
Yeah, last question. Christian, from me tonight. What do you guys expect on Sunday's match against Heerenveen? Predictions.
Sahraoui running through our team, and then we still win anyway because they're bad.
He's a nice player, by the way.
He's lovely. What a player.
Yeah. So, is that your real answer?
Yeah, that's the real answer. The Heerenveen squad is absolutely dreadful, and they've been playing some of the worst football for a couple of weeks now. But they've got a great attacker in Sahraoui, and that's the most positive thing I can say about them at this time. I think they need some signings really badly.
Yeah. They look slow in transition as well.
Very slow, and they used to play this defensive 5-back, but the defense is completely gone, and they couldn't attack anyway. So now they're just struggling.
Nothing.
You don't expect Heerenveen used to be kind of a difficult place for us in the recent years.
I really like Heerenveen as a club, and in the past they played quite attacking football, quite attractive as well. And every single year they seem to find some crazy talents that are hidden in Norway, for example. But they've been struggling over the last couple of years, and it's tough to watch.
All right,
so we should be fine.
We should be fine. Luke, what do you think?
I think a 4-1 win.
Brobbey hat-trick?
Brobbey 2.
No, he doesn't score 3. He never scores 3. I don't know why he just won.
He almost had 3. He almost had 3.
You got to score the penalty, man.
He should have scored the penalty.
Crazy. When I see him pick up that ball, and I was like, when it was the penalty, I was like, please don't let Brobbey take, because over my lifetime, I've always seen whoever picks up the hat-trick on the penalty doesn't normally take them. I'm like,
it's the worst. It doesn't work. Don't be so greedy, man. Just give it to someone else.
Good as well. His penalty was really, really good. It was just a really good save.
It was a good save.
So he's unlucky. But I think 4-1. 4-1.
All right, perfect. Guys, this is it. This was the end. I hope you guys enjoyed the stream, to be honest. Big thanks to Jonas, of course. Pierre, also for you. I know you're very busy, with school stuff as well. So really appreciate making the time. Luke, as always a pleasure to have you. Thank you for joining, guys, and we'll see you at the Game Talk against Heerenveen on Sunday. And then we go to the Conference League against Bodo. We'll see what we can do. Take care. Have a nice evening. Have a nice day, wherever you are. Take care. Bye-bye.
Ciao, guys.